Stay tuned to find out how you can win a copy of this record later in this video. Legendary Americana singer-songwriter Jason Isbell is back with a brand new solo album, Foxes in the Snow. His first solo record since 2015's Something More Than Free, and not only does it omit the 400 unit in name, it omits all other musicians entirely. For what is likely his most personal project yet, Isbell approached this album as a solo performer, capturing just his voice and one guitar, a beautiful, all-mahogany 1940 Martin 017. Recording Foxes in the Snow over 5 days at New York's legendary Electric Lady Studios, this album finds Isbell at a critical juncture in his life, and documents his struggles with love, loss, sobriety, and finding peace within himself. Much has been said in the lead-up to this record in regard to Isbell's divorce from fellow singer-songwriter Amanda Shires, as well as his new relationship with visual artist Anna Wyant, whose work actually graces the cover of this album. However, to call this a divorce album would be an oversimplification. While much of the album's subject matter is inspired or underpinned by Isbell's divorce, it's more of a chronicle of personal growth through the end of one relationship and into the beginning of another. Take Gravelweed, for example. Isbell is acknowledging the important role that Amanda played in his life despite their growing apart, and recognizes that he wouldn't be where he is today if it hadn't been for her support. Personally, I think this is a premature observation, and while that acknowledgement might feel somewhat more like a consolation prize, it's better to have a song like this that honors a part of a relationship, even if it is a hard truth, than something that's like aggressive and confrontational. I would pick this any day. And in a lot of ways, the album is very objective and level-headed in the way it handles the divorce, and Isbell doesn't always even paint himself in the best light. Open and Close paints Isbell as bitter and spiraling in the wake of the separation, and Eileen suggests that he feels he is to blame, and also points to the possibility of infidelity or some other regrettable action. Eileen sounds like it's being sung by the voice of Isbell's guilty conscience, which is also reflecting back on when he was in a similar but opposite position to this. And in the first refrain or chorus section of Good While It Lasted, Isbell acknowledges that there was some good that came out of that relationship, even if it is over now. Obviously, his relationship with Amanda was the catalyst for him getting sober, which led to him writing Southeastern and the career success that came from that, as well as them having a daughter together, so Isbell did have a lot of good things come to him out of this relationship, so seeing that acknowledgement is nice, I guess. Good While It Lasted sounds like it was written with his relationship with Amanda well in the rear view, seeing it for what it was at the beginning of a new relationship. Not every song on this record is quite that refined though. In fact, there's one in particular that's extremely raw, as if it was written right in the wake of the divorce. This is, of course, the breakup song on the album, True Believer, a gut-wrenching song that is clearly about his and Amanda's divorce and the complicated fallout of the event being made public. And while this song might satisfy some fans of Isbell who are looking to him to share his feelings about the loss of his marriage, it's direct to the point of being off-putting and difficult to listen to, especially to longtime fans of both artists. I like the sentiment of it was real before it got all messed up, but listening to it felt kind of voyeuristic, almost like I overheard something that I wasn't supposed to hear. Isbell as a songwriter has a deep devotion to telling the truth in his work, something that is generally really admirable, but this song feels like something that should have been left between them. One interpretation is this song serves more as a vehicle to get fans off of his back, rather than to try and tell Amanda something that she doesn't already know. Especially when you consider the line, "Why are y'all examining me like I'm a murder suspect?" However, that's just speculation. Some things about this song feel very pointed, and it's really hard to know what Isbell's true intention with writing this song is without him coming outright and just saying it. Either way, the song is putting blood on the page, and that's very powerful. And this song was probably very important for Isbell and maybe even very therapeutic for him to record and get it out there. But it's definitely not built for casual listening outside the context of this record, and I kind of doubt this will make it into my regular rotation. Despite the darkness discussed, a lot of this record is actually built around the theme of new beginnings. Take Ride to Roberts, for example. Ride to Roberts takes place in the spring, a time of rebirth, and starts out by saying everything's green right now, which is a double entendre to describe the season, as well as how new things are beginning in his life. As the song continues, themes of healing and happiness abound at the start of his new relationship, showing something positive starting to grow. Going back to shortly after the separation, Open and Close finds Isbell opening up for the first time and getting vulnerable, finding his way back into a new relationship. It's a bit bittersweet and formless. It's kind of like floating in limbo, which I think is reflected in the strike and recoil style of guitar intro that's in this song. But the action starts getting pushed forward towards the end as Isbell starts repeating the mantra, "It's time to be brave." I think this is a really interesting song. It's kind of a slice of life full of contradiction and complexity, and it's reflective of the emotional turbulence and confusion about how to act Isbell may have been feeling post-divorce. Life-altering events rarely leave us feeling clairvoyant, and while this song's kind of erratic nature doesn't necessarily lend well to a bunch of replay value necessarily, I do think it's a really interesting song, especially if you can listen closely and just try and pick up on some of the small fine details in it. And with the messiness of some of these tracks, it kind of makes sense that some songs of the album are going to be more like touching grass per se, or Isbell finding his grounding. Bury Me sounds to me like a mantra for someone trying to be comfortable within one's whole self, the good and bad, the past, present, and future. While Crimson and Clay sees Isbell re-examining his Alabama roots to understand the way his upbringing shaped him. It also is playful with the idea that we all contain contradictions, referencing rebel flags on the highway and wooden crosses on the wall. The contrasting of a small town upbringing and city life reflect how his rural southern roots will always be an important part of him that he finds comfort in, even if he has grown in a different way. And despite his personal turmoil, Isbell has enough clarity of mind through his experience to give some sage advice in Don't Be Tough. This may be the most lighthearted moment on the record, despite the fact that all the lessons he tells here were hard-learned. I've heard some fans suggesting that this might be him writing a new outfit-style advice song for Mercy, and that's certainly a possibility, though I don't hear anything specifically in the lyrics that suggests this. It could be, but the proof is circumstantial at best. We're going to keep talking about Foxes in the Snow here in a moment, but before I go on, I want to tell you how you can win a copy of this record on vinyl. I have a copy here that I'd like to give away to one of my YouTube subscribers, so I'm going to tell you how to enter here now. Step 1, subscribe to the channel. Step 2, comment your favorite song from Foxes in the Snow below. And step 3, submit your email address to the form linked in the description below. This is so that I can contact the winner. Then, on Monday, March 24th, I'll announce a winner via email. This will give you about 10 days after this is uploaded to submit and enter the contest. So, if you want a chance at winning a copy of Foxes in the Snow, follow those instructions and this record can be yours. Alright, now back to it. Throughout the whole record, Isbell's simple solo arrangements really make the song shine. In a recent Wall Street Journal interview, Isbell stated that the decision to make this a solo album, and a true solo album at that, was an effort to prove to himself that he still had it in him to do so, as well as a decision to not make anyone else participate in his darkness, as he put it. This feels like an integrity move to me, especially when you consider that other members of the 400 unit had close relationships with Amanda as well. I don't think it would have been right for Isbell to make Sadler, Derry, and Chad participate in an album that deals with his divorce with Amanda, and that likely would have led to some tension in the band. I think about the Gaslight Anthem's 2014 album Get Hurt, written about singer Brian Fallon's divorce from bassist Alex Levine's sister, and while the details of this fallout were never really made public, a lot of fans speculate that this rift and mounting tension led to the dissolution of the band for 7 years, among other things. Obviously, this situation is a little bit different, but with Jimbo exiting the band on less than amicable terms, possibly being fired, I think this was a good move to avoid further dysfunction within the band. Beyond saving grace for the band, the move toward a fully solo acoustic performance is representative of starting over from square one as well. What could be more return to form than just a voice and a guitar, the state in which most songs begin? It's also a reflection of the very delicate and personal nature of this album's lyrical content. Given the weight of the subject matter, having the guitar as the only accompaniment really helps the lyrics stand out, even though Isbell's guitar work on the record could very well steal the show. Isbell's guitar playing on this record proves that he's worthy of the accolades of being one of the greatest guitar players of our time. The acoustic arrangements are deceptively complex, and his finger-picking attack on this album is something to be marveled at. The intros to Ride to Roberts and Open and Close, as well as the solos on Bury Me and Foxes in the Snow, really embody Isbell's imaginative approach to the instrument, and showcase the technical performance skill know-how needed to bring this music to life. These instrumental parts are very intentionally crafted to maximize his use of the guitar and serve the song. There's a concept in music and art around how setting rules for yourself actually forces you to be more creative because you have to adapt to the limitations. And between the vocal melodies, stylistic variation, and precise guitar performance, I think Isbell has made the most out of the solo performer format on this record. A few other random thoughts. There are a lot of references to sleep in this album, and they kind of appear to be a litmus test for Isbell's mental health and mental state in these songs. In Good While It Lasted, Isbell uses sleep as a metaphor for talking about both his former and current relationship, saying he can't get near enough. Can't get near enough sleep, can't get near enough someone. In the title track, Isbell mentions the sleeping drugs he once had to take in order to rest, and how he no longer needs them. While in Open and Close, he downtroddenly states that he might be capable of taking a nap in this New York apartment. It's indicative of the stress and guilt he feels around his divorce, but it also has a double meaning of being able to sleep at night, or being comfortable with oneself and with the world around you. On this album, Isbell feels tortured when he can't sleep, and is only able to do it again once he's regained a sense of comfort and confidence. I do wonder with some of the songs how much we as fans should read into the specific details. Isbell has been vocal in the past that he often blurs the lines between fact and fiction in his lyrics in service of greater truths. However, all 11 songs in this album are told from a first-person perspective that's consistent with what we do know about Isbell's personal life. Unlike other Jason Isbell albums, I don't think that these are story songs. I think these are personal recollections and dealing with trauma. Something that might make some of the details about the marriage's dissolution a little bit troubling to fans. Regardless of where this line falls, Isbell's full soul is on display in this album. And while I don't endorse everything that this album suggests that he did, I do commend him for being open about it. The sequencing of this album flows well from track to track, however, if there was an intentional linear progression, it's hard to tell. The tracklist could probably be reorganized to tell a linear story, but as it is now, the actual intentionality behind it is a bit less than apparent. And I think there's an odd irony that exists, ending the album with True Believer into Wind Behind the Rain. I love Wind Behind the Rain. It instantly stood out to me as one of the finest songs on this album, but in Secession, it kind of feels like we're looking at this is how it ended, and this is how it began. These are probably the two most emotionally charged songs on the album, one an epitaph for his lost relationship, and one a hopeful musing on his new one, but the sequencing puts them heavily at odds with one another. A choice that may have been intentional, but again, like many things, kinda hard to say. Jason Isbell already proved on Weather Vanes that he is still at the top of his game as a songwriter, and I think Foxes in the Snow is a worthy new addition to that catalog. I can't believe I'm saying this about the guy that wrote Southeastern, but Foxes in the Snow is Isbell's most personal album yet. An unflinching look into his inner world that doesn't always paint him in the best light, but is very human and very grounded in tough realities. It's not a divorce album. It's an album about following the internal compass through endings and beginnings. I think this acoustic approach will likely be a one-and-done deal, but we are very fortunate, I think, to get the album that we got out of it. Stellar songwriting, beautiful guitar playing, and one of the greatest artists of our time giving everything he can to the listener. What more could you ask for? What do you think of Foxes in the Snow? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to enter the contest for a chance at winning this record. Details are in the description below. I'm Brent Funkhauser from Red Moon Media, and if you enjoyed this review, I invite you to please like and subscribe. I talk about Americana, alt-country, and roots music generally on this channel, and if you follow along, I might be talking about some of your favorite artists here soon. Thanks for watching.